Chapter 136, The Great Treasure of Han Mountain. Fang Mu felt dejected. He did not know why, but the mysterious Senior Mo had been ignoring him for more than a year now. He had been calling out to him multiple times every time he came to the forest, but every single time, he would return dispirited. He did not know where he went wrong, and kept recalling every single thing that had happened the last time he met the man. No matter how many times he analyzed it, he still thought that it was related to the bone blade. He had brought this up to his father half a year ago, and his father fell silent. He did not speak, but several days later, his father told him that the man had already left the rainforest in a hurry, as if an accident had happened. When Fang Mu heard those words, he fell silent for a long time. He had thought about giving up, but the probability of 7 Su Ming had spoken about during the last time they had met made Fang Mu reluctant to give up his chance to get cured completely. Even if his father had told him clearly that the man had left, Fang Mu still went there every month and called out to him for several days, hoping that one day he would get a response. Not once did he stop coming into the forest during the past year. He had a feeling that this was his only chance. Fang Mu knew that his father was aware of his actions. He knew about it since his father still ordered the powerful berserkers in the tribe to accompany him to the rainforest and wait outside, just like every single time Fang Mu had come to the rainforest in the past. He recalled everything that had happened in his head, and Fang Mu let out a long sigh. He went into the rainforest alone and called out as per usual, "Senior! Senior!" Fang Mu went to the last place he had met Su Ming and looked around. A dejected look appeared on his face. "Have you prepared the herbs I asked of you?" A calm voice traveled languidly from behind him. The voice may have appeared suddenly, but it sounded as if it had existed in the rainforest from the start. It sounded as if it had blended into the place. Fang Mu was momentarily stunned. He turned around swiftly and saw the familiar figure standing in the same place as the previous year. Senior! A shudder traveled through Fang Mu's body and extreme joy filled his eyes. His breathing became rapid, and there was disbelief on his face. "I've prepared the beast bones that are equivalent to the power of transcendence, but..." Fang Mu looked at Su Ming. He was afraid that the man would disappear once again. When he finally appeared, Fang Mu immediately explained anxiously. "But the 3 herbs are rare items. My father searched for a long time for me, and only managed to obtain 2. The last is an herb named Sky Flute Branch. It has gone extinct in the land of South Morning for a long time. Besides a few special places, it's difficult to find this herb elsewhere." As Fang Mu spoke, he immediately brought out a black bell from his bosom and crushed it before Su Ming. Black mist scattered out and 2 purple beast bones appeared before Fang Mu, as well as 2 herbs that glowed brilliantly. Most of Su Ming's body was hidden in the darkness. He looked at Fang Mu, the beast bones, the herbs, and then fell silent. "Senior, please give me some more time, Fang Mu's heart thundered against his chest. Nervousness flooded his body. "I asked you to search for these herbs to create a medicinal concoction. That medicinal concoction is very useful to me, and it'll also allow me to get rid of the injuries in your body caused by the berserker art," Su Ming said unhurriedly. "If I lack even one of them, then it'll be difficult for me to create that medicinal concoction." Fang Mu gritted his teeth and with his fist against one palm, he bowed towards Su Ming. When he lifted his head, his expression was grave. "Senior, my father once said that it's not impossible to obtain Sky Flute Branch. There are 3 hidden locations in the canyon under Han Mountain City. Decades ago, including the people of my tribe, the 3 tribes entered those places before and obtained a Sky Flute Branch from there, but that herb was taken by Lake of Colors tribe. I heard that it has already been used for another medicine. But according to my father's analysis, there should be other Sky Flute Branches in the canyon. It'll be the day of eternal creation half a year later, and it'll also be the day of the Great Fog of Han Mountain that only happens once a decade. Every single time during this day, the people of the 3 tribes will open the tunnel leading to the underground of Han Mountain, and the 3 tribes will send representatives of their tribes and their guests to go into the tunnel. My father will use that time to send some tribe members to go and search for a Sky Flute Branch. I ask of you, please wait for another half a year." "Oh." Su Ming's expression remained blank, but in his mind he was asking Heifeng about it. Master, the boy is right. There is a powerful seal on the grave of Han Mountain tribe's ancestor. It's not just the tribes, even I cannot enter the place during other times. Only during the day of eternal creation that happens once a decade will the entire land of South Morning be covered in fog. During that time, the seal on my ancestor's grave will be weakened by an unseen force, and only then can other people enter. The 3 tribes should have entered the place multiple times over the centuries. Their aim is to obtain the legacy left behind by my ancestor. After all, besides the 4 great treasures left behind by him, the other treasures are all resting beside him in his grave. I've only heard about this in the past, so I don't know the details. I only know that when Han Mountain tribe's ancestor died, the 3 tribes betrayed us, but it's not so easy to breach the grave of my ancestor, or else the 3 tribes would have taken away all the treasures a long time ago. They wouldn't have to go in that place so many times. It's clear that they haven't obtained a lot of rewards. Master, this might be a chance. If you enter my ancestor's grave, and with my help, you should be able to obtain the things you want. Besides, the 3 tribes have been taking in guests for a long time to prepare for this. The 3 tribes were, after all, affiliated with Han Mountain tribe a long time ago. I heard that my ancestor ordered them about and left the brand of slavery on them. To my ancestor, the 3 tribes would forever be slaves. That's why when they enter my ancestor's grave, they would feel uncomfortable, but if it's an outsider, then they would not feel that limitation. Heifeng's mood was slightly down as he explained. Even so, why would the 3 tribes destroy Han Mountain tribe in the past? Su Ming projected his thought in his mind. It's not just you. Even my tribe members and I have been wondering about it for a long time. But it's something that happened centuries ago. There are few people left who know about the details of what had happened that year. But my guess is that there were outsiders who participated that year. Heifeng fell silent for a moment before he whispered. A contemplative look appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He was not too interested in the grave of Han Mountain tribe's ancestor, but the mystery of the Red Meadow and the difference of its effects towards him and others not only made him amazed but also allowed him to form some theories regarding Han Mountain tribe's ancestor. I'll wait for you for half a year. If you can bring me the sky flute branch half a year later, then I'll fulfill my end of the promise. Su Ming looked at Fang Mu and spoke coolly. Before you go to the 3 hidden locations, you can come here. I have some things to ask of you. Su Ming took 1 step forward and Fang Mu's vision clouded for a moment. He could not see Su Ming clearly, but he could feel a cold sensation in his mouth, as if a foreign object melted in his mouth and spread throughout his body. Once he reacted to the situation, all was quiet around him. Su Ming had already left, and the beast bones and herbs on the ground were gone. Su Ming turned into a long arc, but he did not travel in the sky, he was dashing through the rainforest instead. Master, why didn't you ask to enter the canyon? Heifeng could no longer hold it in and asked. You want me to go? Su Ming moved forward with big steps at an incredible speed as he asked in his mind, seemingly casual. Master, you misunderstand. I did not mean that. Heifeng shuddered and quickly shut his mouth. Heifeng no longer spoke about the matter on the way but provided directions and told Su Ming the location where he had hidden the great treasure. Half a month later, Su Ming stood at one of the summits of a long and continuous stretch of mountain range located far away from Han Mountain City, and looked down. This was a desolate area. There was no one around. The place was secluded, so few people came here. The wind was great, and as it blew against his body, Su Ming's long hair floated in the air. His robes let out ceaseless flapping sounds. Before him were various valleys formed by mountain ridges. There were a lot of valleys that were covered by plants and trees. This might not be a rainforest, but it was still a remote mountain. Master, my cave abode is the 7th valley from the front. Heifeng's voice echoed in Su Ming's head. Su Ming's eyes flashed, and after a momentary silence, he lifted his feet and ran towards the 7th small valley. The 7th valley looked sunken in the distance, and there were a lot of plants within, along with a large number of birds and beasts. Su Ming carefully went into the valley and surveyed his surroundings. His surroundings were quiet, and there were a lot of cracks on the mountain stones. Plants had made their home within those cracks. He swept his gaze across the valley and a white stone coin appeared in his hand. Once he held it in his right hand, he made a sign, and all within the circumference of 1,000 feet appeared in his mind in an instant. All the movements of the wind blowing against the grass and the traces of the creatures in the valley appeared profoundly in his head. Very soon, he focused his gaze on the middle section of the mountain stone towards his right. There was a crack that was not too big. A brief sparkle appeared in his eyes. Su Ming saw 2 big eagles inside the crack. It was clear that the birds treated the place as their abode. You hid this place well. Is this the cave abode you spoke about? Su Ming asked flatly. It's easy for people to find the resting places of birds and beasts, but it's also very easy for them to overlook them, especially in a secluded remote mountain like this. There are a lot of eagles like these here. Heifeng's voice appeared with a cautious tone in Su Ming's head. Su Ming focused his entire branding art on the crack. After careful observation, he noticed nothing out of place. Only then did he charge into the crack. In an instant, he entered the crack, startling the 2 eagles inside. They flew up and were about to screech when Su Ming used the branding art to stab their heads. They struggled out of the crack and fell into the valley unconscious. Su Ming went to the right side of the cave and crouched down. He looked at the ground and smacked his right hand down. The moment he struck, the ground trembled and cracked open. There was a jade box the size of a palm hidden within. There was nothing unusual about the jade box, only some decorative patterns were carved on the box. Su Ming did not pick it up immediately, but chose to observe it for a few moments. However, his expression gradually became more serious with each passing moment. The box was also created from stone coins. The great treasure left behind by Han Mountain Tribe's ancestor. Just what is it? Su Ming sat down and looked at the box. He had asked Heifeng about the treasure before. However, Heifeng's answer was rather ambiguous. He had opened it once, but only saw a ray of virescent light. Once the virescent light disappeared, the box also closed up on its own. After that, no matter how much he tried opening it, he could not. He was also worried that he would die because he did not have the power to control the treasure. That was why, after careful consideration, he hid the treasure over here, thinking that he would try opening it once again after he transcended. Chapter 137. A Difference in Treatment. Su Ming calmed his breathing and looked at the seemingly normal stone box before him with sparkling eyes. He sat down in the cave abode that once belonged to Heifeng, feeling nervous. He was looking forward to the item inside the stone box. He wanted to know what caused Lake of Colors tribe, Puqiang tribe, and Tranquillise tribe to rebel all those years ago. He wanted to know what was the last of the 4 great treasures wrested by the tribes. The 4 great treasures had made the 3 tribes massacre a tribe. Now, the last of these treasures was desired by Xianxia and wanted by Han Feizi. They did not even dare spread the news out. This made Su Ming even more nervous. This thing originally wouldn't have fallen into my hands, Su Ming thought in his heart. He only came here due to a strange coincidence. Heifeng's schemes dragged him into this vortex little by little, from avoiding Xianxia, to snatching Heifeng's body, to the various face-offs he had with Heifeng, and finally with the battle against Han Feizi. Up till then, he had not obtained the true location of this place. The place that Heifeng had mentioned before was completely different from the location Su Ming discovered now. Only when Heifeng became his slave did Su Ming obtain the true location of the treasure and came to this place. A complicated look appeared on Su Ming's face when he looked at the stone box before him. Over the past year, he may have not experienced a lot of things, but the troubles caused by that incident were great. When he thought about it, he would sigh in sadness. Su Ming took in a deep breath and quelled his emotions. He lifted his right hand and slowly placed it on the box. He was about to pick it up, but when his right hand touched the stone box, a sharp scream came out from within the stone box immediately. That screaming sound contained a powerful penetrating force that caused a layer of invisible ripples to spread outwards the moment it began. Rumbling sounds echoed around him, and on the walls of the mountain cave, an innumerable amount of cracks appeared in an instant. The cracks ran deep. There were some that even extended right through the mountain stone, and sunlight shone through these cracks. That was not all. With the stone box acting as the center, The ground around Su Ming also let out rumbling sounds, and cracks also appeared before spreading throughout the entire mountain cave. The sudden change made Su Ming's heart shudder. He Feng, too, was shocked. He was slightly baffled and did not know what had happened. When he touched the stone box in the past and even opened it, this had not happened. Master, this is... He was afraid that Su Ming would misunderstand and wanted to explain himself. However, Su Ming ignored him. He closed his eyes instead and sat down cross-legged on the ground. He kept his right hand on the stone box, and only let out a long sigh after a long while. I know, Su Ming said in a low tone. He believed that He Feng would not have known about this. More importantly, when the scream suddenly rang out and caused the mountain cave to be filled with cracks and ravines, no harm was done to him. There was a scream coming out of the stone box. That scream was piercing He Feng's ears, and he looked as if he could not even maintain his spirit body. But to Su Ming, for some reason, that voice was oddly familiar. That screaming voice seemed as if it was cheering in excitement, as if after the centuries of being sealed in waiting, the person who could finally awaken it had arrived. This was a strange feeling, but Su Ming could feel it clearly in his heart. He could feel that the item inside the stone box was calling out to him. His heart raced against his chest, and with each heartbeat, it would cause the item within the stone box to scream even louder until the stone box eventually started trembling. Banging sounds came from within, as if the treasure inside the box wanted to rush out. Fluorescent light shone through the slit connecting the stone box and the lid, causing Su Ming's face to be illuminated by it. He Feng went slack-jawed in disbelief when he saw this. The moment Su Ming touched the box with his hand, the treasure that belonged to Han Mountain tribe seemed to gain intelligence and acted in this manner. It made his mind blank and threw him into bewilderment. He even started to feel a little hurt. That feeling was as if the treasure that his people had been worshipping for centuries had chosen to ignore him. But when an outsider suddenly appeared, the treasure became so excited it was like it had found its owner. That absurd feeling made He Feng completely stunned. As the fluorescent light from the box shone, the screams became stronger, as if they were anxiously urging Su Ming to open the box so that whatever was inside could come out. Su Ming could feel that the sound was calling out to him more and more strongly. He took a deep breath and with his right hand pressed on the stone box, he patted it, transferring the power of the brand with the method He Feng had taught him. The stone box trembled and immediately opened. The moment the lid opened, the fluorescent light spread out abruptly, enveloping the entire cave abode. At the same time, an even stronger fluorescent light rushed out from within the box with a scream that whistled in the air. It turned into long fluorescent arcs and started flying around the cave abode. A strong piercing sensation rushed forward, causing cracks to fill the entire surface of the walls. That piercing presence made Su Ming's hair stand and his mouth dry up, making him have the misconception that he was facing someone at the Transcendence realm. The blood veins in his body immediately erupted forth as if wanting to resist against the force. In fact, he even had the vague feeling that the presence was growing stronger and had surpassed the power of transcendence. Yet the moment Su Ming's qi was about to spread out, that fluorescent light that seemed to be gushing out of the box flashed and charged toward Su Ming. It was so quick that even Su Ming, who was usually fast enough, could not dodge. The moment he was taken aback, the fluorescent light appeared before the center of his brows as if it had just pierced through space. Sweat beaded on Su Ming's forehead as he looked at the fluorescent light. This time, he could distinctly see what the great treasure was. It was a sword. It was a sword that could fly on its own. It was a completely fluorescent sword that had a complex picture engraved on it that Su Ming had never seen before. The sword was only about 7 inches long and could be held in his hand. It looked cold and frightening, and a piercing presence came from it. The blade was incredibly sharp and looked as if it could pierce through the center of Su Ming's brows like a leaf, with just one small move. Su Ming was not the only one nervous. He Feng, too, was anxious. If Su Ming died, he would also die, and more importantly, his fear towards the sword far exceeded Su Ming's fear towards it. In fact, when the sword got closer, he had a feeling as if his spirit body was about to crumble, as if he could not withstand the frightening presence of the sword coming closer to him. It was quiet inside the mountain cave. The only signs of movement came from the fluorescent light as it flickered. Su Ming sat cross-legged, unmoving. The 7-inch small sword floated before the center of his brows. It, too, remained still. Heifeng's body and soul were overwhelmed with terror. This was a terror that he had never experienced before. It was even stronger than when he had faced death. It was as if he was facing his natural predator. The pressure that came from the sword made Heifeng tremble. Time trickled by. After about the time spent to burn an incense stick later, Su Ming quelled his nervousness. He looked at the small sword before him and was able to tell that there was no ill will coming from it. As he observed it, he had a feeling that it, too, was observing him, as if there was something about him that made it uncertain. After a long while, as Heifeng was strung high with nerves, Su Ming slowly raised his right hand and put his outstretched palm before himself. The small virescent sword seemed to be hesitating. Suddenly, it let out a flash and left the center of Su Ming's brows. It circled around a few times before charging towards Su Ming's right hand and slowly landing with a whistle. Only then did Su Ming let out a breath of relief. Excitement appeared in his eyes, and he held up the sword. Yet the moment he did so, he felt a sting of pain in his palm. The sword had broken the skin of his hand with one swift motion, and with a flash of virescent light, it slipped into Su Ming's body through this wound. A shudder ran through Su Ming's body. When the small virescent sword entered his body, the virescent light scattered and turned into a force that swiftly spread through Su Ming's body. The moment the force spread out, the souls of the wings of the moon that had been hiding inside him crawled out simultaneously. Even Heifeng flew out with a scream. He did not dare to get closer to Su Ming. In Heifeng's eyes, Su Ming's hair was moving without wind. His robes were floating on his body while he remained sitting. His expression may have been still, but there was a terrifying presence that seemed to be awakening within him. It was as if that presence should have belonged to Su Ming right from the start but had been lying dormant. Now, when the small sword crawled into his body, the presence woke up from its slumber. Su Ming trembled, but there was no pain on his face. There was only a frown, as if he was not used to the feeling. He could clearly feel that the sword was weaving through his body as if searching for something. Virescent light shone out from his body, causing Su Ming to look as if he was enveloped in green. Yet at that very moment, violent shudders suddenly shook his body. An indescribable pain suddenly rose up inside him like a tidal wave, possibly due to the little sword having found its place. It let out a sword aura as if ready to pierce through Su Ming's body. That sword aura traveled through him and forcefully opened a path of blood and flesh inside him. A course seemed to originally have existed for that path, but it was blocked in Su Ming's body. Perhaps it would have never been cleared, but now, as the sword aura moved through the path, it also forcefully broke past the originally sealed path inside him. A bang resounded through Su Ming's head. As he trembled, blood flowed out of his skin. A line of blood veins that should not exist in the body of a berserker appeared on him. The line surrounded his entire body, starting from his abdomen and ending on his head. The small virescent sword swam through the line several times before it finally appeared on Su Ming's head. Su Ming could feel its presence, but there was no pain. Instead, as the line was cleared, a warm, comfortable feeling spread through his entire body. It also seemed to be largely different from before. Even if he had his eyes closed and did not make the sign to maintain the branding art, in his heart, he could feel an entire area of a circumference of 2,000 feet clearly. The mark of a sword gradually appeared on his forehead. A mighty presence came out from it as it shone. Heifeng watched Su Ming by the side with a dumbfounded expression. He still could not understand why his own treasure would treat him and Su Ming so differently when they opened the stone box. Thankfully, he was now a spirit body, or else he might have possibly coughed out a mouthful of blood under a fit of distress caused by incomprehension and disgruntlement. Chapter 138, the later stage of the blood solidification realm. Su Ming opened his eyes. For the first time, his eyes shone with a profoundness that looked as clear as ancient stars. He might be sitting inside the cave abode, but it made Heifeng feel as if Su Ming had blended together with his surroundings. He could see Su Ming, but he could barely sense him. Su Ming's eyes especially made Heifeng's heart shudder. He had never even seen those eyes on Xian Lun. Only a prodigy like Han Fei Zi could obtain this sort of feeling that made people feel as if they were drawn in when they looked into their eyes. Master! Feng was very nervous. As he looked at Su Ming, sharp pain wrecked his entire body. It was as if there was a swift and fierce presence coming out from Su Ming's entire body. He could not help himself but be afraid. Su Ming turned his head and looked at Feng. The moment his gaze met with Feng's, tremors suddenly shook the latter's body. He floated dozens of feet away instinctively, as if his body was about to crumble. He even felt as if a sharp arrow pierced through his heart. All his thoughts were exposed the moment Su Ming looked at him, and he could hide nothing. Master. Su Ming smiled faintly. The pressure coming from his body immediately dissipated. His eyes also calmed down and returned to normal. He moved his body, standing up and letting out a long breath. Let's go. Su Ming lifted his right hand and grabbed Feng's spirit body. Immediately, Feng was absorbed into Su Ming's body along with the cheering souls of Wings of the Moon. However, this time, there was no need for the souls of Wings of the Moon to be wary of Feng. Feng was docile, remaining still inside Su Ming's body. He once again felt the small sword and its pressure. Amidst his fear, he grew to be respectful towards Su Ming. This sort of respect stemmed from Su Ming's mysteriousness. Up till now, Feng still could not understand why his people's treasure would act as if it met its long-lost owner the moment it saw Su Ming. Feng could not even predict Su Ming's level of cultivation. He did not know how many blood veins Su Ming had, but he could vaguely guess that with the shining virescent small sword, even if he met Xianlun, he could still fight against him without losing. Su Ming walked out of the mountain cave. It was already noon. The sun was bright and felt warm against his skin. He stood outside. As he looked at the blue sky and the white clouds, a sparkle appeared in his eyes. Chances are hidden within danger. This time, to obtain this sword, I had to face danger. But it's all worth it. Su Ming lifted his right hand and touched the center of his brows. The mark of the sword was still flashing on the center of his brows, but as Su Ming touched it, the flashes became slower, and then disappeared altogether a moment later. This sword gives me an intimate feeling. It doesn't reject me either. Also, that red meadow absorbs other people's qi, making it hard for them to maintain it, but not for me. In fact, it makes me feel safe when I stay inside it. These two things are the legacy left behind by Han Mountain Tribe's ancestor. Could it be that I'm somehow connected to him? Su Ming closed his eyes and felt the wind against him as he remained unmoving at the entrance of the cave. This sword opened up a path of flesh and blood within my body. This path should be able to let me absorb the power from the world necessary to maintain the branding art. Su Ming opened his eyes. This was the greatest reward for him from this incident besides the small sword. As he stood there, he could feel wisps of aura flowing towards him from all around him and crawling in through his pores. However, they were only flowing in like a small stream as of then, though if he continued like this, someday, the flow would definitely come crashing in like tidal waves. This is a practice different from the practice of qi. I trained to gather my blood to turn it into the power of blood veins so that my body would become stronger and I would obtain incredible physical strength. That is what is meant by blood solidification. This practice is obviously not of blood veins, but one that is connected to the aura that exists in the world. If that's the case, then I'll call this practice aura convergence. Blood solidification allows me to have endless power and use my blood to cast various berserker arts. There may only be 2 uses for aura convergence now, but it's really strong. Su Ming did not make any signs, neither did he hold any stone coins, but with just one thought, everything that existed within the circumference of 2,000 feet appeared in his mind. At the same time, the mark of the sword that had dissipated flashed once again at the center of Su Ming's brows. The moment the virescent light appeared, the small sword charged out of Su Ming's brows like a bolt of lightning to the distance. It traveled so quickly it could not be seen with the naked eye. Virescent arcs surrounded Su Ming in an area of 2,000 feet. They continued moving but were limited to that area of 2,000 feet. Once they left the area, the virescent light would become dull, as if no longer able to fly in a stable condition. Yet to Su Ming, those 2,000 feet were enough. However, using that small sword was not an easy task. In the span of just a few breaths, he began to feel his head hurting and his vision blur. The aura that accumulated after much difficulty in the path that was just cleared inside his body instantly emptied out, causing the area of 2,000 feet to continuously shrink in his head, a telling sign that it was due to large drainage. 5 breaths is just right for me. If I go over that time, it'll be hard for me to withstand it. Su Ming quickly called the small sword back to the center of his brows. His head was hurting badly at that moment, but he could not increase the rate of his absorption of the aura around him. He could only absorb it slowly into his body and store it in that path. This practice where I gather the aura around me should not be so slow. Perhaps it's because I don't have a method to absorb it that I'm currently like this. But Han Mountain Tribe's ancestor might have a method to increase the absorption rate. Su Ming touched the storage bag in his bosom with his right hand, and a white stone coin immediately appeared in his hand. When he held it, he could clearly feel that there was the same presence within the stone coin, and it was being quickly absorbed into his body. As he absorbed the aura, he could feel his headache disappearing and his head returning to normal. However, that white stone coin became slightly duller. No wonder Han Fei Zi and Xian Lun after this. If I can coordinate this completely different practice with blood solidification, then my power will be. Looks like I should really go to the grave of Han Mountain Tribe's ancestor. Su Ming moved forward and left the mountain cave. He did not turn back but dashed into the deeper parts of the remote mountain. The effects of mountain spirit are gone, and I've finished taking in all the berserker blood. Now, I have sufficient qi, and my blood veins have increased a lot. This is the time for the burning of blood. If I succeed, then my power will increase once again. From then onwards, I will no longer be a weakling. If I battle with all my power with the help of the small sword, aura convergence, and the souls of wings of the moon, then would I still lose to those in transcendence? Expectation and resolution filled Su Ming's face. Su Ming continued charging non-stop for nearly half a month. By then, Han Mountain Tribe was already far behind him. He had arrived at a spacious place. The sky was very blue, mountains and mountain ranges were dispersed all over the land, and there were only cries of birds and beasts that could be heard. There were no signs of people around. This was a desolate place, and it was the place Su Ming chose for his isolation. He would perform the 5th burning of blood here and increase the blood veins in his body once again. During the burning of blood, a change would fall upon the sky and earth, but at this place where few people traveled, the possibility of people noticing that change would be largely reduced. Su Ming sat on one of the peaks of the mountain ranges for 7 days. During these 7 days, he did not move. He simply immersed himself in the circulation of his qi while he waited for the full moon. Another 3 days passed by. When night fell, the sky was dark, but in the sky was the moon, and the moon was not in a crescent shape but round. The moment the full moon arrived, Su Ming, who had been sitting at the place for 10 days, opened his eyes. He Feng had already been covered by the brand inside Su Ming's body. He could not see what was happening outside. Su Ming did not want anyone to know about his secret. The shadow of the moon was reflected in his eyes. He lifted his head and looked at the full moon in the sky. Taking in a deep breath, he circulated his qi abruptly. Banging sounds reverberated through his surroundings. This was the first time Su Ming let out all of his qi after absorbing all the berserker blood. 400 blood veins instantly covered Su Ming's body. Red light flashed brilliantly and dyed the summit in red. Su Ming's expression was grave. As the shadow of the moon became clearer in his eyes, more blood veins appeared from within his body once again. The number of blood veins increased from 400 to 460. They covered his entire body densely, causing the blood-red light around him to become stronger. But this was not yet Su Ming at his peak. He took a deep breath and red filled the whites of his eyes instantly. That red was not due to anger or excitement, but because Su Ming's qi had reached its peak. As he circulated his qi, it caused his eyes to be filled with blood, which was why his eyes were bloodshot. This was followed suit by more blood veins appearing on his body once again. 470, 480, 490. And when the number reached 510, a mighty presence erupted forth from Su Ming's body. This was his peak after absorbing all the berserker blood. Originally, the berserker blood would not have created such a huge effect. But the reason why Su Ming could increase such a large amount of blood veins was due to the large amount of mountain spirit that he had consumed over the years. Even if mountain spirit had lost its effects, the residue lying dormant in his body still contained some effects. Under the incentive provided by the berserker blood, his body seemed to have been cleansed, and his potential was largely developed. That was why there was such a shocking effect. After the 8th stage of the blood solidification realm, there was no longer a set amount of blood veins required to reach the 9th, 10th, and 11th levels. However, any berserker that manifested more than 500 veins could be said to have reached the later stage of the blood solidification realm. Even if the designation given to them was the same, there was still a difference in every person in reality. 500 blood veins were considered the later stage of the blood solidification realm. 781 blood veins were also considered the later stage of the blood solidification realm, and 900 blood veins were still considered the later stage of the blood solidification realm. Even if a berserker manifested 949 blood veins, he would still be known as having reached the later stage of the blood solidification realm. Only those who manifested more than 950 blood veins would be known to have reached completion of the blood solidification realm. However, these people were rare, and those who could manifest more than 980 blood veins, they would be given the legendary title of Great Completion of the blood solidification realm, but these people were rare even in big tribes. All of Su Ming's qi appeared. He looked at the moon in the sky. There was fire within his eyes, and his entire body seemed to be burning. From the distance, he looked like a man of fire. His expression was calm as he lifted his right hand slowly. Once he bit his finger and blood flowed out, he placed his finger on his left eye with one swift motion. That blood touched the fire and ignited Su Ming's convictions of a powerful berserker. The burning of blood began at this moment. Chapter 139, Egress. The sun rose and set. Clouds came and went. 5 months passed by in the blink of an eye. During these 5 months, drastic changes happened multiple times in these remote mountains. Sometimes, the land would shake, and numerous birds and beasts would scatter far away, as if the place had turned into a forbidden land. There were also a large number of trees that suddenly turned white and withered away as if they had lost all their life, becoming dried husks. The area where the trees were affected was wide as well, covering almost a spherical area of dozens of li. From the sky, the land exposed under the withered trees was covered in innumerable cracks, as if there was a drought in the place. This strange sight was incredibly rare in the land of South Morning. Rain was abundant in the region. By right, drought should not happen. However, there was something more shocking than this. Every single time the full moon appeared on this land, howling would start. These howls did not seem to be made by humans, and they were difficult to hear with one's ears. Only those who had a certain level of cultivation could be able to feel them if they came near the place. These howls would become incredibly loud during full moon nights, and a lot of moonlight would descend upon the place then. Hot air would also rise into the sky from the ravines on the ground, as if the entire remote mountain was being burned and roasted. It was evening. In this area that seemed like a forbidden place, 4 figures appeared. These 4 people were very cautious, and they did not move forward. The leader of the group was an old man. He wore a blue robe, and his body was thin and dry. His frame was big, and his entire body exuded a sullen presence. Behind him were 2 men and a woman. They did not have the same presence as the old man, especially the woman. Compared to the sullenness of the old man, she was very beautiful. "Father, is this the place you spoke about?" Behind the old man, a middle-aged man in his 40s spoke cautiously. "That's right. 2 months ago, I passed by this place and saw the strange sights that happened here. Most of the plants here have withered and lost their vitality. Even the land itself has dried up. If I'm not wrong, then this phenomenon should mean that a treasure is about to be born." The old man's eyes were ghastly as he spoke slowly. His level of cultivation was remarkable. He might not have reached transcendence, but he was already in the later stage of the blood solidification realm. As for the other 3 people behind him, 2 were at the 5th level of the blood solidification realm. The 3rd middle-aged man was at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. I did not tell any of our people about the strangeness of this place. Our status in the tribe is normal, and we do not have the right to go into the Holy Land during the day of eternal creation. This has to do with me being unable to transcend with my level of cultivation. I've placed my hope on you. If I can obtain this treasure, perhaps it will do you good. The day of eternal creation is near. Fog has started surrounding the entire land of South Morning. The tribe is busy making preparations to enter the Holy Land. They won't notice our movements. The old man looked at the land in the distance. It was evening. There was a thin layer of fog far ahead. If they looked down at the earth from a high place, they would see that a large amount of fog was coming out and covering an endless area in the land of South Morning. The man took a deep breath and nodded. As for Dao and Shan, you two can follow behind. There might not be any aura of death coming out of this place, but the withered trees have lost their vitality. The aura of death is within them. You two can absorb them into your bodies. It'll be good for you. The old man looked at the sky and spoke in a low tone. Every single time night arrives in this place, there will be a change. I went in once after observing it for a few days, but I stopped after traveling in 10,000 feet. However, with the tribe's death essence pearl, I should be able to venture deep within. There was an eager look in the old man's eyes. Father. The middle-aged man by his side looked rather hesitant. He cast a glance at the old man before saying with a low tone, Father, this might not be due to a treasure appearing, but a senior training in this place. If our assumption is wrong, then… It's good that you have your worries. I thought about that too before, but when I entered this place last time, I did not meet with any misfortune. More importantly, the plants and the earth have only lost their vitality, but the aura of death did not spread out. If that senior is truly training in this place and caused such a huge change, why would he not use this aura of death? This phenomenon can only be explained by the birth of a treasure. As the old man spoke, dusk went by. The entire sky darkened. The crescent moon appeared in the sky, and moonlight shined onto the ground. Don't think so much. We will go now. The old man took a deep breath and led them into the withered forest. Behind him, the middle-aged man followed cautiously. As for the two youngsters, they followed behind with excitement as they continuously absorbed the aura of death from the trees that had lost their vitality. Their expressions were becoming more and more eager. They did not move fast. As they walked through the dead forest, the sight of the cracked earth and withered plants entered their sights. The old man may have looked unaffected, but the middle-aged man was gradually covered in sweat. If it was just withered plants, it wouldn't be so strange, but the land is also cracked badly. The land itself here has lost its vitality, and this has become a great place for us from Puqiang tribe to train. If I could just train here. It's a pity the aura of death is not lively here. It loses to the area in the tribe. The middle-aged man took in a deep breath and gave up on the thought. Instead, he too became eager to find the treasure. As for the male and female youngsters, they were stupefied. They were no longer excited or eager, they were beginning to feel nervous. At that moment, howls suddenly came from one of the summits in the distance. The howls were sharp, and normal people could not hear them. Only those with a certain level of power could do so. The old man's expression changed. It was clear that he heard the howls. As for the middle-aged man, he could vaguely hear them. His qi was circulating uncontrollably, causing his heart to race. If he was in this kind of state, then it was even more so for the two youngsters. The faces of these people were pale. They may not have heard the howls, but they had a feeling as if their hearts were being torn apart. The old man let out a cold harumph and brought out a black pearl from his bosom with his right hand. The moment the pearl appeared, the area was instantly filled with a black air that flew out from the plants and the earth. It charged towards the pearl and gathered within, turning into a screen of black light that enveloped the four people. I came up to this place last time. Now, with the death essence pearl, we should be fine, or else that howling will become stronger and it'll be an annoyance. As the old man spoke, he continued moving forward. The three people behind followed after him quickly. Under the protection of the screen of black light, they gradually moved into the deeper parts of the land, towards where the mountain was. Under the moonlight, the mountain was obscured and could not be seen clearly, but even with the screen standing between them and the howls, they still traveled inside, coming from the mountain. The treasure must be at the peak of the mountain. The old man quelled his excitement and took a few quick steps forward, bringing the other three behind him into the mountain as they moved quickly towards the top of the mountain. The top was barren. The plants here had long since withered into ashes. Numerous cracks covered the entire mountain, causing it to look ghastly. Yet the old man did not take note of these. As he continued moving forward, they soon reached the obscured part of the mountain. Yet at that moment, the old man suddenly faltered. The middle-aged man behind him paled in an instant, and a dismayed look appeared on his face. At the summit located 100 feet away from them was no treasure but a person sitting cross-legged. They could see the figure of the person before them clearly. His face was obscured, but even so, a strong presence covered the surroundings, causing the old man and the middle-aged man's hearts to race uncontrollably. This was not due to agitation, but anxiety. In fact, the space around the person seemed to be twisting, and the howls were coming out from the twisted space. The old man's pupils shrank. Stunned, he was about to retreat, but at that moment, right before their eyes, the obscured figure sitting cross-legged opened his eyes and hurriedly. There was an aloof look within that profound gaze. With a freezing glance, the figure looked at the old man, and a banging sound rounded in the old man's head. His qi began circulating uncontrollably in his body. He quickly retreated and grabbed the pale-faced middle-aged man who looked as if he was struck by lightning, as well as the two youngsters who could not withstand the pressure brought about by that gaze along with him as he withdrew. Yet when they had retreated to a distance not even 500 feet away, the four people trembled as a fierce, invisible presence appeared out of nowhere and locked onto them. Lots of moonlight descended around them, causing a huge sense of danger to fill their hearts. Transcendence. This person is definitely a powerful berserker at the transcendence realm, or else he wouldn't be able to exude such great power with his gaze alone. The old man stopped and cold sweat broke out on his skin. He had a feeling that if he continued retreating, he would definitely die. Senior, I am from Puqiang tribe. Please forgive my transgressions. The old man quickly wrapped his fist in his other hand towards the person sitting at the summit. His expression was respectful, even though he was nervous. It was quiet all around them. The howls that he felt had also disappeared. Time passed by in this silence, causing the four people to become increasingly more nervous. Puqiang tribe. Leave behind that pearl in your hands and go. Amidst the silence, the old man felt as if years passed by. When he heard the person's words, he took off the black pearl without any hesitation and placed it by his side before quickly bringing the other three people to withdraw. His heart raced against his chest with a feeling as if he had just escaped death by a hair's breadth. Even after they ran out of the withered area, they continued running for several hours before slowing down. The old man's face was pale. He turned his head back and a fearful look appeared on his face. To him, what had just happened was a life and death situation. The middle-aged man beside him was also breathing rapidly. He looked at the old man and asked in a whisper, "Father, is he a transcended berserker?" He's not just a normal powerful berserker who transcended. He should be at the middle stage of the transcendence realm, the old man said after hesitating for a moment. Middle stage of the transcendence realm? Then isn't he at the same level as the elder? There are only 3 berserkers who are at the middle stage of the transcendence realm in Han Mountain City. The middle-aged man took in a sharp breath. The other 2 youngsters beside him were also shocked, and lingering fear swarmed their senses. Don't spread this out. We can't provoke powerful berserkers like these. We're fortunate that this person was not interested in killing us, or else. A shudder ran through the old man's heart. He quickly swallowed his words and led the other 3 people away. Su Ming sat quietly at the summit. In his hands, he held a black pearl. The pearl was the item left behind by the old man. He held the pearl for a long while before putting it away in his storage bag and standing up. The 5th burning of blood makes people fall into deep sleep. Su Ming mumbled and lifted his head to look at the land in the distance. It might have been dark, but he could still see that there was a layer of fog covering the land. Master, you've slept for more than 5 months. The day of eternal creation is around the corner. The entire land of South Morning will be covered in mist during the next few days. He foam cautiously said in Su Ming's mind. His contact with the outside world might have been limited during these 5 months, but as Su Ming fell into deep sleep and he could not leave Su Ming's body, he could still feel that Su Ming was gradually becoming stronger. This strength made He Feng terrified, and the youth became even more enigmatic in his eyes. Chapter 140, Visiting Tranquilliste. Su Ming's expression did not change. He sat at the summit calmly as he looked at the fog in the distance. The fog may have seemed thin, but because it had covered an area so vast, its end could not be seen. It left people the impression that they were in a sea of fog. This special weather was one Su Ming had never experienced. He had been in Dark Mountain for more than 10 years, but besides morning, it was rare for fog to cover the land, much less an area so huge. The day of eternal creation. Su Ming lowered his head. His long hair covered his face, and he sat there unmoving, as if he had once again fallen into deep sleep. He Feng hesitated for a moment before he eventually spoke in a low tone. Master, the day of eternal creation is the day where the 3 tribes will open the tunnel to Han Mountain City. We can't make it there in time now. Su Ming did not speak. Only when another hour passed by and the fog became thicker did he lifted his head. He rose unhurriedly and stood at the summit, his hair lifted by a breeze. As they flew behind his head, a faint scar was revealed on his face. He looked at the fog that covered the land and placed his right hand into his bosom, taking out a black, hooded long robe. Once he replaced his wrinkled clothes, he brought out another item from his storage bag. It was the black mask. Su Ming put it on. The moment he did so, his presence changed abruptly, making him seem as if he was not there. Unless someone directly searched for him, they would be hard-pressed to take notice of him. The mask was black, giving Su Ming a ghastly and uncanny air. His expression could not be seen, and neither could his face. Only his indifferent gaze shone out of the 2 holes where the eyes were on the mask. Su Ming's long hair and head were both hidden within the hood of his black robes. Only the eerie black mask was revealed, giving him an enigmatic presence. When He Feng saw Su Ming, he was stunned. For some unknown reason, he had a feeling that he had seen this Su Ming someplace before, but before he had time to think about it, Su Ming had already begun moving. When he first came to this place, while Su Ming might not have used his full speed, he still needed half a month for the traveling. Now, as he went back through the boundless fog, he only used 6 days. In 6 days, he arrived to Han Mountain City's territory from his isolation spot. He might not have arrived in Han Mountain City itself, but he was not far from the place. As he traveled forth, the fog in the region became thicker. He could no longer see into the distance. Everything in sight was covered by the fog. These days, the birds and the beasts hid themselves, as if they did not dare to venture out. The entire land was quiet. The only sound came from Su Ming as he blasted forward. Another 3 days passed by. Su Ming continued running towards Han Mountain City with a speed so quick it made He Feng rife with suppositions. On the 3rd day, Su Ming stood at the same summit as when he had first went to Han Mountain City, and looked at the city shrouded by fog and the 3 mountains surrounding it. A gleam appeared in his eyes, and he moved towards the mountain where Tranquilliste tribe was located. The mountain of Tranquilliste tribe was shrouded by fog, but it only surrounded the borders of the mountain. The fog was comparably thin within the mountain, and there was some visibility in the area. The mountain was huge and rose high above the ground. As the mountain was currently shrouded by fog, it made all those who looked up from the foot of it to feel as if they were minuscule in comparison. Su Ming stood at the foot of the mountain to Tranquilliste tribe. He lifted his head to observe the mountain for a few moments. Before him was a stairway that was about 100 feet in breadth which spanned all the way to the top of the mountain. This was the only way to Tranquilliste tribe. I broke my promise to meet Fang Mu, so I have to come here. Su Ming averted his gaze and lowered his head as he moved towards the steps. The moment his foot landed on the stairs leading to Tranquilliste tribe, a great pressure landed upon him. This pressure did not belong to any berserker but was the pressure of the mountain itself. At the same time, a mighty voice traveled out languidly from within the mountain. Halt! Tranquilliste tribe is closed off for a month and refuses all visitors. Su Ming paused in his footsteps. His gaze was calm as he looked at the stairway leading straight to the top of the mountain. He could feel that the pressure contained an unquestionable might. If he opposed this might, then it was equivalent to him declaring the entire Tranquilliste tribe his enemy. Master, we should leave. This is the power emitted by the Berserker Protector statue from Tranquilliste tribe. It protects the entire mountain. The day of eternal creation is near. Tranquilliste tribe is definitely high on guard. They won't allow any outsiders coming into their tribe. We shouldn't trespass. If you want to enter the tunnel of Han Mountain City, I have a method to help you. He Feng quickly said. He knew just how strong the 3 tribes of Han Mountain were nowadays. If it were him, he would definitely not come here, but would instead use other methods to enter the tunnel of Han Mountain. Master, don't take the risk. We can't intrude into this place. When He Feng saw that Su Ming was ignoring him, he quickly spoke once again. He was worried that Su Ming was young and did not have enough experience. Trespassing into Tranquilliste tribe was a meaningless act to him. Not only would he be injured by it, he might even enrage Tranquilliste tribe and not get anything out of it. Su Ming fell silent. After a long while, he averted his gaze from the stairway. I made my decision, Su Ming said unhurriedly and lifted his foot towards the stairway. The moment his foot landed the second time on the stairs, a booming sound seemingly echoed from the mountain. The mighty voice traveled outwards once again. Trespassers will have their powers destroyed, be expelled from Han Mountain, and their safety will no longer be our concern. The mighty voice gradually dissipated, but the pressure from the mountain became stronger in an instant, causing the fog around Su Ming to scatter as if it was avoiding the pressure. Master! He Feng could not understand. He was just about to advise Su Ming against his actions when he moved once again and continued walking up the stairway. He Feng could not understand Su Ming's actions. In his mind, sneaking into the tunnel of Han Mountain unnoticed was the best solution to the problem. This was related to his status. He did not want to expose his true identity and cause more unwanted trouble. However, Su Ming did not harbor that thought. The 3 tribes of Han Mountain had been in control of Han Mountain tribe for hundreds of years. They had entered the hidden grounds multiple times, and it was impossible for them to enter the place with an uncertain amount of people with how cautious the 3 tribes were. Not only would their numbers be fixed, they might also know each other. If that was the case, once they encountered someone they did not know in the grave, then they would definitely attack the stranger together. Once this happened, then he would definitely become the mortal enemy of the 3 tribes. In fact, this sort of sneaking around was even worse than Su Ming intruding on Tranquilliste tribe now. If he was discovered, it was the same as forcing himself into a dead end. Even if he could escape with the mask concealing his true identity, there would still be a possibility for his identity to be revealed. That was the true risk. He Feng could choose that path. After all, he had a trade with Han Feizi before this. He was also the only tribe member left of Han Mountain tribe. It was not surprising that he knew of other methods to enter the grave. However, Su Ming was an outsider. If he chose to take that path, it would be too dangerous for him. I'm still going in no matter the method. Instead of taking a risk and sneaking around, I might as well go in with pride and dignity. Su Ming said. With his mind set, he stood where he was and took a deep breath before letting his voice travel to the top of the mountain. I, Mo, have come to visit the tribe leader of Tranquilliste tribe. His voice boomed and traveled through the surroundings and to the top of the mountain, causing a large amount of echoes to reverberate around the mountain for a long time. Time passed by slowly until the pressure from the mountain suddenly disappeared. A faint smile appeared on Su Ming's face and he lifted his feet to walk up the stairs. Tranquilliste tribe was a middle-sized tribe. There were a lot of people in the tribe. The mountain itself was part of the tribe and filled the entire area. As Su Ming walked in, he saw quite a number of people from Tranquilliste tribe looking at him coldly, but they did not come forth to stop him. To be exact, the mountain did not have a summit. The top of the mountain was flat, as if the summit was sliced off. There were buildings built on it and around it, forming a tribe in the mountain. There was also a large empty space in the mountainside. Buildings were erected on the mountainside as if they were entrenched on the mountain, and those buildings were erected along the mountain up to the very top. It was clear that this was not the only territory belonging to Tranquilliste tribe. As Su Ming stood there, He could see the faint contours of other summits in the distance from where he stood in the fog. Before Su Ming was a teenager. It was Fang Mu. When he saw Su Ming, he was first stunned. He had never seen Su Ming's true face before. When he saw the mask, he became uncertain. Senior Mo. Fang Mu took a step backward and looked at Su Ming warily. Lead the way, Su Ming's hoarse voice traveled forth. When he heard the voice, Fang Mu let out a breath of relief. Respect appeared on his face, and he wrapped his fist around his palm in a greeting towards Su Ming. Senior, you asked me to visit you half a year later, but when I went there, you were not around. As Fang Mu led the way, he spoke to Su Ming with a put-out voice. I had some matters that took up my time. That's why I decided to come straight to your tribe. There was laughter in Su Ming's voice. As he looked at the people from Tranquilise tribe and the unique buildings, he could not help but remember Dark Mountain. As they moved forward, some tribe members greeted Fang Mu kindly, but when they saw Su Ming, their expressions turned aloof. Su Ming observed the tribe, noticing that there were a lot of berserkers among the people of Tranquilise tribe. The number of people who had reached the 7th level of the blood solidification realm also surpassed Windstream by quite a large number. Not much time passed by. Under Fang Mu's guidance and introductions, Su Ming was brought to a tower that was built within the mountain. The tower was hundreds of feet tall, had 3 floors, and exuded a great presence. From the distance, it looked like the head of a gigantic wild beast roaring towards the sky ferociously. My father is inside. He asked me to bring you here. Fang Mu stopped outside the tower. After a moment of hesitation, he whispered to Su Ming by his side. Senior, my aunt is back. She's from freezing. Before Fang Mu could finish speaking, a cold harumph from a man traveled out from within the tower. Fang Mu swallowed his words and laughed sheepishly before taking a few steps backwards. Brother Mo, my son was rude, don't mind him. Please come up here and speak. A middle-aged man who looked somewhat similar to Fang Mu appeared from within the tower and looked at Su Ming with a smile.